Hi, welcome everyone. And thank you for joining us in this episode of the Spot Mag podcast. I'm so excited to have our guest today, Miss Kirsten Flory. She's a realtor, author, speaker, and also has an amazing podcast called The Small Business Mindset. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hello, thanks for having me.
So, I've been following your podcast and I've actually been a guest on it, and you have had some amazing topics and all about really making your idea into a business. Can you tell us a little bit about how you got started with your podcast and the inspiration behind it?
Yeah, Crystal, you and I are similar because we have real estate as our kind of our primary source of income in our lives. And these have been conversations that I've been having with clients throughout my years in business, from real estate to I was in banking before. And I realized that I'm having a lot of the same conversations over and over, which is good. I'm glad that business owners are asking the same questions because they have the same interest in how do I grow? How do I get started? How do I go from home base to, in place?
Mm-hmm.
And so the podcast was a way for me to take those conversations and, expand them to the world and cover topics from a gauntlet of things. It's literally how do you nuts and bolts start a business from, creating an LLC to, how do you manage your finances to how do you hire somebody and how do you market? So it's a variety of topics that I'm constantly having with clients and just a way to connect the dots.
Well, what a great idea because people have so many questions right now. And a lot of people have fears to ask directly. So you're giving them a platform
Yes.
they can go on and get like a Rolodex of information so they can learn at their own pace. What
Yeah.
um what are you looking forward to in 2021 in terms of the creative business landscape? Because I know there's been some funding for people to get started with new businesses as well as
Yeah.
commercial spaces available for new entrepreneurs.
I think the beauty of business is that it's constantly changing.
Mhm.
And, even over the last, I'm going to say 10 to 20 years, we've seen a lot more small businesses emerge in general. And whether it started from like more of a direct marketing type of small business, and I'm kind of putting, my female hat on here for a minute, something as easy as, and not easy, but something as, easy to get into as like American Cosmetics or Avon or
Mhm.
something like that, that probably,
Definitely.
our moms used, makeup line. And that was,
Exactly.
that was a traditionally easier way to explore small business ownership because it's something you could do on the side. And I know a lot of people, they might be perfectly comfortable working inside of a company and, clocking in and clocking out, and they go about their day, and that's their area of expertise. And I admire people that are that way. A lot of us, and I'm going to say myself included, I'm going to say you included too,
Yes.
Crystal, I think in our downtime, or in those moments where, we're in the shower, out for a walk, or we're having a meal or whatever, and the creative juices are constantly flowing. And I love that enthusiasm for creativity. And that's where I feel like new businesses are grown all the time. I think the fear though is how do I take the idea and turn it into a business? And I use, in my book and on my podcast and my blogs, I talk about like the donut maker. And that's just a general. I know, Crystal, you have a cobbler business and would love to learn more about that too. But you're absolutely right. I'm going to use donuts just as a, you know, most people love donuts.
Of
I
course,
can't make
yes.
them, I can't make them or cook to save my life. But as an example, let's say you're somebody that makes donuts in your home kitchen and you serve them to your friends and family, and maybe you sell them to a couple parties or whatever, and people are like, oh my goodness, these are the most amazing donuts I've ever had, and you make 20 varieties and you
Mm.
got it down, right? And I work with the people a lot in this space where they've created this home-based product, and they're like, okay, how do I take it to the market? And they get excited and they say, great, I want to go open up my donut shop. I'm like, I'm so excited for you. What a great idea. But what I find is that they are the experts in that area, meaning they are the donut maker experts. And what they might not be experts in is the business side. And for a lot of people, it's a surprise and it's scary as can be, because how do you forecast for how much am I going to have to spend in rent? How much am I going to have to spend to renovate the space for my needs?
Mhm.
What should I be paying? What are my income projections? And I think what surprises a lot of people the most is the fact that they assume if they just get started, they're going to make money right away. And that I really want to bring people down to earth a little bit, because a lot of times, even though I know when I made the transition to real estate, I didn't make as much money as I had before right away. There's a
Takes
transitionary
time.
period.
Yeah.
It takes time. And my hope for everyone as they're, getting those creative juices flowing and they're coming up with new ideas and wanting to go into business, that they're doing their homework, and they're connecting to some great free resources that are available all over the place. So you asked, what is 2021 bringing to the business environment and the market? Lots of amazing ideas. Because I think if anything, 2020 allowed us, I'm going to speak for myself, allowed us to pull back and analyze, what's efficient for us, what works, what doesn't. And in a lot of ways, what am I going to stop doing because maybe it's not productive for myself or my business? And where are areas that I can plug into and create new avenues, whether it's new communication strategies or new relationships for my business that will allow us to grow in a bigger and better way? I think 2020 was a great chance for a restart. And 2020, I'm so excited to see those new recharged energies, reformulated business ideas come off and hit the ground running.
I think you're 100% right. One of the things that, it's almost a year since the whole beginning of the lockdown began.
Yeah.
And, once everybody got done watching Tiger King and all the other shows, I never even finished the series. I think I got like 4 episodes in, and then something tragic happened. I was like, you know what? I'm done with this.
But it was almost like a train wreck. It was almost like, I can't stop watching it. Isn't that awful?
Oh my goodness. But I think that at first people thought, well, I'm going to enjoy this time. Kids home, I'm home. And then they were like, okay, well, Tiger King's over. I've watched everything on Netflix. What do I want my life to look like when this is over? And I think a lot of people put that groundwork in. And I love what you're saying about making sure they have realistic expectations. Because a lot of times I've talked to business people on the show before who think they're going to jump right in and just make a profit. And it's so important to really have a budget, to know your expenses, know your cost of goods. One of the reasons that I'm able to continue doing Crystal's Famous Cobblers, where I'm at, is because I knew what my profit margin on was from the very beginning. And I made sure everything was profitable. Most restaurants are 70-30%. And I tried to make sure I had a higher profit with the cost of goods. So I think that this 2021 can be, like, I always look at it like it's like the Renaissance period. Hopefully people have these great ideas. They can come up with creative ways to express themselves, write, poetry, music, dance, everything. That's what I'm looking forward to over the next decade. So,
I heard a quote recently that somebody was talking about creativity, and I want to say, I'm probably going to botch this, so bear with me. I want to say Darwin. When Darwin was creating his most creative, he was taking walks alone in the woods. And I think this last year, a lot of us has taken a lot of walks alone in the woods, and that's not always a bad thing. To have space and time and sunshine, and a little bit of reset ability. Because sometimes the best ideas come out of that.
Well, Wayne Dwyer, I think that's how you say his last name. He was a motivational speaker for years. I listen to a lot of stuff on YouTube. If you're ever looking for inspiration, YouTube has amazing videos. Like, I try to do motivation every day, but he said, when you wake up, don't go back to sleep. Get up, because that's your, I'm a spiritual person. That's your spirit or your soul saying there's something to create. So I keep my notebook by my bed, and I try to write down, if I wake up at 4 or 5, let's write down whatever is in my mind. And I love how you talked about the Mary Kay. Mary Kay was a visionary. If you think about how many women learned how to own their own business through, what is that called?
Direct marketing.
Direct marketing. And you're exactly right. People are finding what they're good at, their talents, and finding ways to monetize it. Are you seeing a big change in people finding, I know that there's the women business grants. Do most states offer those that you're aware of? Or sorry,
it's interesting. Different. It's I would say different states across the country offer probably different type of incentives programs for women and minority-owned businesses, which is great. And I think more and more communities are embracing that, because I think they're realizing that a lot of times, I'm going to use women for an example. Women might be the single breadwinner of their family, and they need to. But a lot of times they're also moms. So there's a different dynamic that exists for women business owners than had before. Not to say they're single men they're single dads and need that help too, but I think they're realizing that to allow those type of business owners to tap into a little extra boost to get them started, I think is hugely beneficial for a community, because it brings in a different type of audience base. It brings in a different type of creative base. And I'm a firm believer in, I love the diversity of business, even if you have the same, so say you have two donut shops right next door to each other, more than likely somebody's going to do it differently. And, I'm actually in the middle of composing my next blog post where I talk about competition versus synergy. And a lot of times we get so scared when we think about, so let's use Mary Kay, for example. When Mary Kay's competition was Avon. It's like, well, wait a minute, does one do it better than the other? Yes and no in some areas. I mean, they both sell makeup, right? They both sell skincare and makeup. And I mean, there's a variety of other product lines. But if you think about it, sometimes synergy is good, because I try to deter business owners away from, you can't be a one-stop shop for everything, nor should you aspire to be, because it doesn't allow you to specialize. If you are a one-stop shop and you can offer every type of donut, and then you're like, well, but I'm a baker, so I can make cakes and cupcakes and cobbler, and I can do all these things. And maybe you can't. What's your niche and what makes you special? And then bring it down to profitability. What is your primary source of revenue for your business? How do you exploit that? Because more than likely in any industry, you're going to say that 80% of your sales more than likely come from one category. And does that mean that you depart completely from the other 20%? Maybe not. Maybe that's your added benefit side. But really honing in on what makes a lot of sense. I know that was a really, diversion from the whole state incentives conversation.
Honestly, that's a way better, that's a way better conversation, because that is so true. I've always been told, my old broker, when I was at a different real estate firm, said, you don't want to be a jack of all trades, but a master of none.
Right.
And I think a lot of times, because I don't want to say desperate, but we're just like really like excited, or we just want to force something to work. We want to offer everything. I mean, we did that when we had the Crystal Spot. We were trying to we were testing out different things. And then you have to be ready to adjust pretty quickly, because that's where you lose money. If you're not willing to adjust and say, okay, this is not a winner. Let's not be emotionally attached to it and cut the ties. Like for the magazine, once I became the sole creative director of it, I mean, I didn't know how to use InDesign. I didn't know how to do anything, but my previous partner ended up having a baby and had to step away. So I had to learn to do it all. And then it came to year 2 and almost going into year 3. And I was like, okay, well, I can't do 6 issues a year, run my real estate brokerage where I have other agents I need to train, sell houses, and be a present mother as much as I need to. So you just have to learn to adjust. And I think a lot of times women business owners or entrepreneurs feel like if you have to make any adjustments or concessions, it's a failure. And you know what? Sometimes we fail, but there's a lesson in it. And it's not a permanent failure. I've had to learn that myself. Just because I have to tweak something does not mean I failed permanently. Just that idea is not ready to be hatched yet. Does that make
you bet?
Because I think that can make a lot of people hesitant when you're talking about, I have the donuts, I know how to bake it, I know how to sell it. But what if I open up this store and one opens around the corner from me and I don't know how to compete? So I think that's a key point for small business owners as well as entrepreneurs, to be comfortable in change. I hate the word pivot. I'm so over it. But let's say this year we've all learned how to adjust and we made it. So, sometimes the fear of the failure is paralyzing, but look, you can make it through it. So.
And I'm glad you bring up failure, because for some people, failure is a debilitating word. And I know for a long time it was for me. It's like, I can't fail. I can't do this.
What if people see me fail? Yeah.
I know. Right. I mean, am I a failure? Because then you associate a failure of a task or a failure of a venture as a failure of yourself personally. And I challenge you and anyone that's listening to this podcast or watching us have this conversation, I challenge you to fix your mindset and embrace that concept, because that is it is a total mindset. If you fail at something, does not mean you personally are a failure. And once you can really embrace that, that is so empowering. And in fact, anytime I start something new, so like when I started my podcast and it started about 1.5 years ago, and I stumbled and struggled. It took me about a year to figure out even how to do the darn thing. I mean, it's like, because I think I speak sometimes things that I struggle with. And that's another thing too, changing the language around that. Because I I don't know how to do this, but I want to do this. And I just kept asking the questions. How do I do this? How do I do this? And baby steps, and I would honestly say, and I couldn't say this out loud, I failed at producing my podcast for a
Mhm.
year. I failed miserably and honestly spent money that I probably didn't want to spend.
Mhm.
And then it just took time. And I'm so glad that, actually through last year, I mean, I had actually hired a producer to put all my shows together and upload them and make them sound pretty and all that stuff like that. And I think I actually met with you and your partner John and said, "How do I do?" Asking questions. And he's like, "Oh, well, let me pull this up for you." Same thing with
But
you. It's
sometimes
like
it's just simplifying it. It
it's
doesn't.
simplifying it. Yeah.
I have new realtors that come in and they want to do all these things, spend all this money. I'm like, no, no, no. I always like to work from a profitable angle. And when you come into something, it's overwhelming because you think you have to be here. And
Yes.
you can start your own race however you want it to be.
Yes. And
You helped me look for a commercial space for my real estate office. And in my mind, I was like, well, I'm competing with the big brands. I'm like, well, they have these big offices. And I was like, but that's not my journey now. This is your journey right now. And I love it because a lot of times I believe that women, especially, we compare ourselves to someone who we have no idea where they came from or what they've gone through. And as I was talking to Tony in our last mindful podcast, I was like, you compete with other people. And I was like, but I'm doing this, this, and this. And he goes, and you're a mother. I'm like, oh, well, yeah. This is the things that you don't think about. Like, okay, yeah, I guess that
yes.
does take a lot of my time to,
Right. Right.
obviously I wouldn't
And
trade it.
here's a little secret too. I know that, we so many times, and I'm going to say it, the keeping up with the Joneses concept, but I think we compare ourselves, and I think women are awful at it. Women are
Yes.
awful at comparison. And I could use the excuse of, if I see a snappy gal, I'm like, ooh, I like her hair, I like her outfit, I like this, I want that. I mean, it might be more of I like her style and I
Mhm.
want to emulate that and flatter her. But at the same time, thinking carefully about, okay, well, if I see she drives a certain car or she's carrying a certain purse or whatever, does that make sense for me in my life? Is that what I'm after? Do I truly love I'm gonna say, do I love the Mercedes or the Porsche
Mhm.
or I drive a Jeep? I mean, do I love it for that, or do I love it because of the image? I mean, really get to the bottom of it. Because you know what, Crystal, I know you work with many multimillionaires, as do I. And we have clients that have tons of money. But I would say the people that I love working with the most, you would have no idea that they had that kind of money. I
That's how I
mean,
feel about my partner.
yeah. Say that. Poor John.
Did you know him?
Yeah,
I read that
it's
book years ago, The Millionaire Next Door, and it's been some of my clients who I didn't know were so financially secure. I'm like, I didn't know you were a multimillionaire because I would never have assumed. But
yeah.
I agree 100%. We do get into a habit of judging or keeping up with the Joneses or keeping up with the Kardashians, whatever you want to say. That may be trademark, so I don't know. But like, I'm looking at your outfit now.
You and I both have big lips, so we're good there. We're good.
There you go. There we go. And I got the big behind, but nobody sees it.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking, like, I'm looking at your outfit, like, okay, I need to update my wardrobe. Like, we get into those places that, like you said, we talk kind of a little bit about failure of task, but we also compare ourselves and then make it a personal thing. Like, it's not a personal thing. Like, when I woke up today, this is what I felt comfortable wearing. So just because I see your amazing blouse doesn't mean that what I chose for me today is wrong. It
No,
may just be
because
like,
I love your
okay.
amazing sweater and your amazing color. So
Well, now
we'll
I'm
just
like, well,
flip flop
maybe I
it
need
and
to
we're
figure out
good.
where your shirt is, and then I can get one too. I love it. I mean, first of
And we
all,
could
you have an
go
amazing
ahead,
voice,
sorry.
and I love talking to you. And I just want you to go on tour and do these motivational speaking, and I can be like your MC. I don't know. We'll figure something out because I just see the future so big for you. I've been so honored really to know you, and I'm so thankful that we're building this friendship because since I met you when you worked at Truity, or it was KU Credit Union back then, I was like, this
Yeah, it
girl is
was.
going somewhere. Like, not that you needed my approval or anything, but I've always looked at you like, man, she's on top of it. And
I feel Likewise, Crystal. I mean, I love it's been an honor to watch you grow in your career and just explore different things and, doing it. And you're probably, I'm sure every venture you stepped into, you're like, oh my gosh, okay, let's do it. Right.
Yes.
And then you come out the other side. And I think, this is the beauty of the journey. And this is where the fear of failure, you get to embrace it. And I know that knowing you're not afraid to do things. And even though you're on the inside, I'm sure you're thinking like heart's beating fast and you're like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm writing this big check and I'm signing this big
Mhm.
contract. But I know you have probably this gut check of, and this is where my husband and I talked about this at length when I switch industries. I'm
Mhm.
like, he's like, do you think you can do it? And I said, yeah, in my gut. I mean, I feel like I got this. It's going to be hard and there's probably going to be tears at some point and there's going to
In
be a
real
lot of,
estate, definitely.
yeah, but at your core, and that's what I want everyone to ask themselves. If you're considering leaping into something big or small, whatever, do a gut check. I mean, make
Yeah.
your plan and do all this stuff. But at the core of it, it's like, am I willing to do this 110%? Am I in with both feet? Or am I kind of like, well, if it works,
Yeah.
then honestly, if you're half in and half out, it's not going to work. I don't care if you have the biggest, deepest pockets on the planet. You can throw money at something all day long and it's not going to work. I mean, because honestly, it's
Mhm.
not about the money. It's about the passion and the feeling and the gumption just to do it and to keep asking and to be open to failure, because you don't get anywhere unless you keep failing and failing and failing, even in tiny steps. So Crystal, I admire you for not only giving women this platform to talk and to exchange ideas and to explore each other and to connect. You've done an amazing job with that. And I love reading your magazine. So that's awesome.
Well, I appreciate that. I mean, it's been a struggle. Like I talked about in my last letter to the editor, what you're saying is you wonder, like with last year with everything shutting down, we had to realign how we're doing the magazine because I didn't feel right charging small business owners for advertising when I know how hard everybody was hurt. And I'm hopeful that it's providing inspiration to other people, because that's kind of my call, and I believe is to help motivate, inspire, and empower other people. So I'm so thankful to have you on the show. I look forward to us being able to create some amazing things in the future. You make me want to be better. And I'm so thankful to know you.
Likewise.
And I will be giving away to someone who shares and comments her Golfing in Hills book. You got to check it out. She's super cute, obviously. You can see her on the video. And then you have
and no, I don't actually golf in heels. I mean, that's dangerous. Don't do that.
I've golfed one time. I was not very good at it. I was very good at the drinking in the cart. I figured that
Nice.
out very
Nice.
well. And then you also have a new book, The Small Business Mindset: How to Turn Your Idea into a Business. And those both
Yeah.
can be found and ordered on your website, kirstenflory.com. Is it better to go there directly, I assume, for people to order?
Yeah, that's just an easy way to get to it. You can get them both on Amazon. The Small Business Mindset: How to Turn Your Idea into a Business book is an ebook, so it's an easy downloadable thing. And actually, if you jump on my website and join my mailing list, I can send you a copy for free.
Yeah.
So even better.
Oh, and the one I'll
Yeah.
be giving away is an autograph copy. So
Ooh, hey, look at that.
make sure you like and share so we can get you a copy of that. Thank you so, so much. I can't wait to see what you're going to do the rest of the year.
Thanks, Crystal, for having me. Have a great day.
You too.